Welcome to my presentation on Hot Girl Summer, VSCO Girl Playlists, and the Political Economy of Youth. You can see my contact information on this slide, but let's get started. So, according to French Marxist collective Tikkun and feminist theorist Michelle Murphy, forms of capitalism that prioritize financialization and speculation imagine their ideal subject as a girl. Stereotypically, girls are full of as yet unrealized productive and reproductive potential, producers and consumers of spectacle, and yet also obedient and subordinate. This makes them perfect models for the kinds of people who behave and understand themselves not as laborers, but as cultivators of human capital. After establishing some evidence for this claim, I will spend most of this paper examining the ways pop musicians and audiences take up and respond to this figure of the girl or the young girl. Specifically, I'll show how both Megan Thee Stallion's Hot Girl Summer and VSCO Girl-themed playlists ambivalently embrace and reject this figure and the racialized class gender norms and expectations it encapsulates. So Tikkun and Murphy have each argued that, quote-unquote, the girl, whether white or non-white, Western or from the global South, has become the ideal subject of neoliberal human capital. In their 1999 semiotext essay titled Preliminary Materials for a Theory of the Young Girl, Tikkun argued that, quote, the young girl privatizes everything she perceives, close quote, folding the traditionally feminized sphere of reproduction into capitalist production. As Moira Weigel and Mal Ahern explain in their 2012 commentary on the essay, quote, when early 21st century capitalism realized that, to reproduce itself, it would have to colonize social life, it particularly targeted the spheres of youth and femininity, close quote. Things traditionally devalued for their femininity are now crucial dimensions of capitalist value production. Neoliberalism produces value through logics of investment, and the best investments are the ones you can buy low and sell high. For this reason, the figure of the poor, non-white girl from the global South, quote, typically represented as South Asian or African, often Muslim, has become, as Michelle Murphy argues, the ideal vessel of human capital, close quote. Combining stereotypical associations among girlishness, obedience, subordination, and heterosexual virginity with ideas of youthful capacity, the girl figure is a kind of shorthand for profitable investments whose returns will safely shore up patriarchal racial capitalism. As Murphy puts it, quote, the girl is calculated as a risk pool that draws together a bloom of possibility, a bouquet of potential, a cluster of affect applicable to any dispossessed condition anywhere so long as it is girled, close quote. Markets prioritize youthful capacity for exponential growth, such as blooms in the sense of algae blooms, but only the kinds of growth that support white supremacist capitalist patriarchal distributions of property and personhood. Other kinds of growth get targeted for surveillance, policing, and quarantine. In this context, respectability politics is a matter of one's perceived success in privatizing the costs of one's ebullient, adaptable, explosive capacity for growth. So even though the respectable girl is an, if not the, ideal figure for a particular kind of capitalist production, this doesn't mean that either actual girls or even the abstract figure of the girl or the young girl have finally risen above second-class social status. In fact, it is precisely this second-class status that makes these girl figures such good representatives of this particular mode of surplus value production. According to Lester Spence, neoliberalism upgrades traditionally binary status categories into tripartite ones. At the top, there are those who have already successfully adapted themselves to market logics. In the middle are those who haven't yet but can potentially adapt themselves to market logics. And at the bottom are those who can't or won't adapt themselves to market logics. These girl figures occupy the middle category. In the first, most privileged group, that potential is already realized and thus unavailable for exploitation, extraction, and enclosure. Youth, young girls, the girl, are all most attractive to capitalism because they bring the highest returns for the lowest cost. Youth and girls are center stage because they are the easiest and most profitably exploitable group. Now, to get a sense of how actual girls and women are responding to all this, I want to turn our attention to two of 2019's most viral memed girl figures, #HotGirlSummer and VSCO Girls. So we'll start with Hot Girl Summer. This phrase, Hot Girl Summer, is a cleaned up version of the opening ad lib in a Megan Thee Stallion single from 2019, where summer replaces the S word you can't play on the radio. According to Know Your Meme, Twitter user @SweetLikeT invented the Hot Girl Summer hashtag in mid-May 2019 when they posted some thirsty selfies captioned with the phrase, "Heard it's a hot girl summer, side-eye fire," to Twitter. By July, mainstream publications like Vox, HuffPost, and Time were running "What is Hot Girl Summer?" explainers. Stallion's song debuted in early August. The song and the hashtag are in tension with one another. Though the song exhibits aspects of the anti-work aesthetics LaMonda Horton-Stallings describes in her scholarship, the hashtag functions as a feminine analog to what Lester Spence has identified as hip-hop's hustler figure, who is Black pop culture's remix of neoliberal discourses of entrepreneurship and creative destruction. According to Stallings, the aesthetics of hip-hop music and dancing, common in Black strip clubs in the U.S. South, quote, make pleasure and sensation function as a strategy of decolonizing the spirit, close quote. To be extremely brief, these aesthetics include performances of gender and sexuality that make participants into something other than the quote-unquote men and quote-unquote women patriarchal racial capitalism needs and wants. There are at least two ways we see and hear this in Hot Girl Summer. First, the twerking we see in the video is a form of Black social dance that Stallings identifies as a, quote, corporal orature that arises from the Black ratchet imagination, close quote. This imagination seeks possibilities for gender and sexuality outside racialized class rubrics of respectability. Nicki Minaj's rolled R's are the second way Hot Girl Summer uses pleasure and sensation to imagine Black femininity outside the rubric of the girl figure. In this song, she uses these rolled R's to denote sexual intercourse. And as I argue elsewhere, though the lyrics are clearly about sexual pleasure, the sonic expression or representation of that pleasure, that is, the performer's pleasure in hearing or feeling herself make all those extra verbal sounds, makes it physically manifest in ways that aren't conventionally understood as sexual or gendered. Shifting the place one's body feels sexual pleasure away from the ones that are conventionally legible as sexual, Nicki's vocal performance taps into the same aesthetic strategy she and the other dancers use throughout the video. Whereas the girl's sexuality is framed as a matter of human capital she must responsibly manage so that others can get a return on their investments in her, the girlish sexualities performed in Hot Girl Summer refuse such discourses of responsibility and private property. To experience the aesthetic pleasures the song and video promise, you can't abide by the girl rubric. As a femmed-up version of hip-hop's hustle narrative, the Hot Girl Summer hashtag and meme sticks more closely to that rubric. As Spence argued, hip-hop's hustler figure is one of Black pop culture's adaptations of neoliberal discourses of entrepreneurship and individual responsibility. And in the case of Black women, this figure manifests as what Emily Lordy describes as the expectation to, quote, privatize success and failure as metrics of personal resilience and hard work, close quote. As Stallion describes her, the hashtag Hot Girl is a paragon of individual responsibility who excels at the kind of emotional and affective labor involved in the subsumption of leisure activities into work. For example, in a video for The Root, Stallion explains, quote, it's basically about women and men just being unapologetically them, just having a good-ass time, hyping up your friends, doing you, not giving a damn about what nobody got to say about it. You definitely have to be a person that can be the life of the party and, you know, just a bad bitch. You gotta still be on your bullshit, close quote. Beyond that, the hashtag Hot Girl Summer and meme references this gendered form of the hustle as its circulation on social media creates the girl figure's blossoming success. Given these alignments with capitalist structures of subjectivity and production, the relationship between hashtag Hot Girl Summer and patriarchal racial capitalism is more complicated than the brands co-opting Hot Girl Summer takes circulating in progressive social media suggest. The video suggests that it's aware of such complications. Its introductory scene features a hottie, the term for members of Stallion's extremely online fan base, as she prepares for a party. As she rehearses some not especially well-executed selfie poses and dance moves, she laments she's, quote, not having a productive Hot Girl Summer, close quote. The word productive here evoking the hustle narrative. Once our protagonist arrives at the party, she is surrounded by fellow hotties who magically make her over, so that dressed in a neon green bikini, see-through chaps to match the bikini, and a cowboy hat, she dances effortlessly. With this scene, it's almost as though the video acknowledges the tension between the viral hot girl and the song. Hashtag hotties are only hollow shells of the real thing as depicted in the video. So Hot Girl Summer has an ambivalently critical and uncritical relationship to the girl figure. The musical dimensions of VSCO girl subculture also exhibit an ambivalent identification/disidentification with that figure. So 2019's other big social media girl subculture was the VSCO girl. Named after an image-based social media platform that stands out from the competition for its lack of likes, shares, or any other performance metrics, VSCO Girls refers to a white teen girl subculture devoted to the platform's aesthetics. Basically, VSCO is Instagram-like filters without the influencers. As a 2015 New York Times article puts it, quote, VSCO favors sweeping landscapes and foreign faces over cappuccinos and Kim Kardashian, close quote. White and middle class, the figure of the VSCO girl has all the virality of a Kim K or a hashtag hottie, but without the proximate or actual blackness. The figure expresses what is more or less a fashion sensibility that spread over TikTok in 2019 to become the preferred style of the popular basic girls, as one teen interviewed in Slate put it. After interviewing a handful of teenage girls, Heather Schwedel found that the VSCO girl is indeed more a figure for this pop culture moment's version of abject white adolescent femininity than an actual identity high school girl age aspire to. The VSCO girl may be, so quote, the VSCO girl may be whoever you need her to be, and the one person you don't want her to be is you, as Schwedel says. Schwedel's subjects described VSCO girls as conformist and not that interesting as people. So for example, another of Schwedel's interviewees asserts that, quote, they have all the mainstream interests like mainstream music interests, close quote. The 150 plus VSCO girl themed playlists on Spotify and YouTube prove this assertion to be true. The ones I surveyed mixed recent Hot 100 hits like Despacito or Tootsie Slide with a few classics from dad bands like Van Morrison or Green Day, and revamped oldies like a lo-fi hip-hop remix of Paul Anka or a small and soft cover of Build Me Up Buttercup. Most user-made playlists tended toward the chill and lo-fi. VSCO girl playlists are uncool. Nothing about them stands out. Neither the songs on these playlists nor the overall aesthetic they reflect are especially spectacular. There's no blossoming of affect as with the girl figure. As I've argued in my latest book, uncool is a way white people push back against neoliberal imperatives to maximize their human capital and be resilient. When we're all supposed to maximize our interests, being boring is a way to opt out. But only for white people, because it's criminalized or pathologized when non-whites fail to adopt neoliberal market logics. VSCO girl aesthetics are a strategy white girls use to alleviate the pressure to be the girl, to spectacularly overachieve and develop their human capital. It can also more perniciously function as a class and race-based disidentification with the girl figure. Here, the lack of capital G girlish blossoming human capital can function as a statement of one's well-vestedness, one's status in Spence's top tier. So to wrap up, both Hot Girl Summer and VSCO Girl playlists are instances where young women both accede to and refuse neoliberal gender norms about girls as the ideal vessel of human capital. Thanks.